Of Dart. I'll say that. So I want to be clear. It's not that I think Jaxson Dart is a better quarterback than him, but I also think the situation in particular that the Giants are in, where they have two quarterbacks who can start, veterans, and Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston in the building, and also they don't have a ton of pressure to win now, different from the Steelers in that way. The fact that they got one of the two best players in the draft in Abdul Carter and then added a developmental quarterback later, process-wise, that makes sense to me. I have said I do not believe Jaxson Dart should start in the NFL immediately, but I can see why they were enticed by his tools and his athleticism with the promise of developing him. They also didn't give up a ton to go up and get him. And I want to be clear, like I am skeptical of him as an NFL starter. So I'm not saying this was a home run pick. Oh, wow, I can't believe the Giants stole it. But from when you look at their draft as a whole, when you look at what they gave up, when you look at their timeline, all of those, to me, check boxes.
So I just want to be...
Yeah, I agree.
Hold on, because I'm going to give it to you. I just want to be very clear about you.
I was nice. I said I'm sorry for your
loss. That is moving the conversation forward. Let's move the conversation forward. I feel sorry for your loss. And then the next question out of your mouth is, hey, what do you think about the Giants passing up on the door for Jaxson Dart?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it was really an unselfish transition. You know, we were just going to the other quarterback. I felt good about my Giants draft, and I just need to get confirmation and validation from the experts.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Go ahead,
hey,
Ryan.
Molly is like that woman that accepted the engagement from a pastor at her husband's funeral, right? That's how Molly is behaving this morning. That's exactly what that was. That's right. We just buried my husband, but now I'm going to be the first lady of the church. That's exactly what Molly just did.
That's right.
I think what Mina is saying, listen, and I know we come here to take these hard stances of it's right or it's wrong. Here's what I'm going to say about the Giants' first round. Their process was the correct process. Yeah. Their decision-making, their maneuvering was extremely competent. Whether you feel Jaxson Dart is a first-round quarterback, Jaxson Dart is a franchise quarterback, or Jaxson Dart was the number 2 quarterback in this draft, that's up for opinion. But nobody did more work on the quarterbacks in this draft behind Cam Ward than the New York Giants did. Nobody pinpointed the one guy that they'd want as a developmental quarterback the way the Giants did. And to move up, a pick before Atlanta moved up, and not give up a first-rounder the way that Atlanta gave up a first-rounder next year to get a defensive end, I thought that was masterful negotiating by Joe Schoen. And so for all the mistakes they have made until this point, I thought last night the Giants won. They didn't win based on Mina's board, but based on their board, their evaluation, and their process. I believe if I'm a Giant right now, if I'm Brian Daboll, I feel like I hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
You still feel like we can't.
What is wrong with you, bro?
I mean,
why are you acting like that?
His analysis was all right, but I'm not giving Shane, the GM, any kudos. I mean, it was a nice draft. Okay, let's see how they look come season time. He should still be ashamed of himself for Saquon Barkley debacle. That's why I call him Shane instead of Shane. Okay, that's why I feel that way about him. I ain't giving him no love. Hell with him. Okay. All right. Now the Giants, hopefully they'll get back to being relevant again because they've stuck up the joints since they won the Super Bowl in 2011. Them and the Jacksonville Jaguars have been the 2 worst teams in football, and Shane should be ashamed of himself. But last night he did a good job. I'll give him credit for it, but I'll be damned if I want to. That's how I feel about it.
Yes or no answer before we go to a positive note. They're still the bottom of the division in your eyes?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
it's still the bottom of the division.
All right, Mina and our
Steven, you need therapy, bro. Go.
Peter, you alluded to this. You kind of had this building up. The Giants had the best first round last night. Fact or fiction?
Fact. I gotta say, this is for Benny and Hohokus and Johnny and Holmdel and Marcus on Route 3. Everybody, feel good if you're a Giants fan. Not only did you get Abdul Carter, who was the first player on a lot of people's boards overall, you also manipulated the draft board in such a way where you didn't give up a bounty of picks to go get your quarterback. If you look at the pick right after them, the Atlanta Falcons gave up a first-round pick to get to the Rams to take a defensive end. You guys gave up a 3rd-round pick and the 34th to go and get Jaxson Dart. I love what Joe Schoen and company did. Take a day. I know we could be critical of the Giants front office. Take a day to enjoy it because this was a heck of a night for them.
And now a crowded quarterback room, Jameis Winston, Russell Wilson sitting there, but the future is Jaxson Dart. And Graz, what went into the Giants making that move to get their quarterback?
A lot. Giants spent a ton of time on quarterbacks in this evaluation process going back to last August and September when they're at games watching these guys. So they were working out 3 guys last week privately, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, and Tyler Shuck. But they had put Jaxson Dart through that same workout a couple of weeks earlier. So they knew they liked him. They wanted to get all their data together. And once they did, they met over the weekend and early this week. Brian Daboll, the head coach, felt like Jaxson Dart was the guy that he wanted to work with, that he wanted to develop for the future, and the organization as a whole got to that point where he was the guy. So now the question was, how do we get him? Now, Peter's saying they only used a 3rd-round pick. And not only that, but they had 2 third-round picks, and they used the lower one, pick 99. They still have pick 65, which is the first pick in the 3rd round. So they were able to get this deal done without using that pick, which going into last night was a priority for them. Right. They did not want to spend that. So as it fell and as Pittsburgh passed on quarterback, it got to a point where the price was right for the Giants. So they get their guy. They can sit him behind Russell Wilson for however long he needs to develop, much like the Patriots and Drake May last year, and they feel great about it.
Yeah, we always talk about with rookie quarterbacks fit, organizational fit with what they've got going on, and he just brought it up. The fact that they don't have to thrust him in there right away, which sometimes can be a bad thing for a rookie quarterback, makes this a good situation for Jaxson Dart.
They got 2 bridge quarterbacks. They don't just have one. They got 2 guys, just in case one of those get a little bit injured. They can still let Jaxson Dart sit down. And I think, honestly, as exciting as it is to think that you might have gotten your quarterback, I think it's more interesting to imagine this defensive line on 3rd downs with Thibodeau, Burns, Lawrence, and then you add Carter to that. That would be the difference. That would be what makes this team competitive more so than Jaxson Dart later in the draft. So it's not as fun to talk about, but I'm channeling my Schrager, and I can't wait. The producers at some point are just going to make a segment for Schrager where you can just do, what's making you happy right now? Because he brings so much joy and levity to the program. It's hey, we got to feel good about this guy.
Yes, and Schrager, what do you think about the Giants draft?
Really, really quickly, I was talking to James Franklin yesterday. He was at the draft, and Coach Franklin had Abdul Carter at Penn State, and you'll love this. Said when he recruited Abdul Carter, he shows up, and it's row houses in Philadelphia, and he's looking around, opens the front door to Abdul Carter's house, and there's Abdul Carter in the living room with a bench press just doing a workout while he walks in as a high school kid in the living room. Open. There was no foyer. There was no mud room. There was no giant. No, you walk in and the first thing you see is the kid in the living room just doing a bench press. And he said, "This guy's special." And then he was everything they wanted him to be at Penn State. So to your point, Neek, if you're a Giants fan, Dart's almost a second thing. You got Abdul Carter last night. Yeah. It's amazing.
RC, how much better did the Giants get last night?
The Giants knocked the draft out of the park. And from their pre-draft analysis and evaluation process to the way that they manipulated the draft to get Abdul Carter. And I told this story yesterday. Jordan Clark, my son, that's my college football insider. I asked him, I said, "Hey, man, what was the week like playing against Penn State? And what was the game like? And what do you think of Tyler Warren? What do you think of Abdul Carter?" And he said, when the offensive line was walking off of the